Thanks again for an excellent turnout. We've had some brilliant speakers this week, and I hope you're all enjoying Journalism Week. But of all the good speakers that we've had, Erwin has raised a lot of interest, and a lot of people have been asking and making special requests that he comes here. And he has travelled all the way up from Wales today to give his time to speak to you. At the end of this, I'm going to try and tap up the possibility of some kind of work placement with Inside Time. Usually, to work for Inside Time, most of their employees are doing time. I don't want any of you to be there, but I wanted a little bit of a more law-abiding route into doing work experience with Erwin. But because we're running a little bit short of time, I'm going to hand you straight over to him.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Gosh, that's very warm. Thank you very much indeed. You know, I am a journalist. I'm a writer. My name is Erwin James. I've been writing as Erwin James. I'm my byline for the past 18 years. But my full name is Erwin James Monaghan. So you want to Google me and find out all the sort of nitty-gritty. It's all on the internet. But I went to prison in 1984 for quite terrible crimes. I never thought I would ever live again. Not ever. You know, I mean, seriously. I'm not like bullshitting you. I'm telling you the truth. I went to jail expecting never to live again. You know, I had no education. I was inarticulate, ill-educated. I had nothing to offer society. You know, I was like finished. You know, I was at the end of wherever you can be in life. When the Old Bailey judge sentenced me to life imprisonment, I was pretty sure I was at the bottom. If the death penalty had been in the statute books when I was convicted at the Old Bailey, I would have got it. You know. In fact, in Wandsworth Prison, when they took me there, I was a high security prisoner, and they took me to Wandsworth Jail. And in the reception process, all the prison officers they stripped me, they poked about. They totally, utterly humiliated me. They were very intimidating. You know, I was, on paper, a very dangerous individual, but in fact, the truth was, I wasn't dangerous. I was broken. I was numb. I was finished. But all the officers, a big gang of officers, all making jokes. 20 years ago, you'd been on E-wing. I had no idea what E-wing was. Anyway, I skulked along. You know, they put me in the maximum security wing, and I found out from fellow prisoners that E-wing was where the gallows was, where the death cell was. And they still had a working gallows in Wandsworth until 1996. And when I found that out, I promise you, hand on heart, I was really miffed at these officers that they thought I'd be intimidated by that, because I wouldn't have minded the gallows. I would not have minded the gallows. I would have just gone, you know. I had nothing to offer society. You know, I'd lost my way somewhere from a very young age. I'd lost my way and caused indescribable, irreparable pain and grief for other people. And I was glad my life was over. You know, when the judge sentenced me, life imprisonment, 99 years, that's what lifers get. I was glad. I thought, Christ, I don't have to go back out there anymore. It's all over. I never expected to be somebody who could stand here in front of you guys, who you're all, you know, chomping at the bit to crack out and go on and achieve amazing things in your lives. I never expected to be somebody who could do that. In my cell, you know, my cell had 3 sets of bars on the back wall in Wandsworth. Like there was hardly any light. Gloom struggled to get into that cell. That's how grim it was, you know. But I deserved all that was coming to me. I had a bucket under my bed for my toilet, a bed, a chair, and a table. I wasn't thinking, when I get out of prison, I'll be a journalist. I'll be a writer. I'll be rehabilitated. You know, I never. Jesus Christ, those thoughts. I didn't have that sort of word power. You know, I didn't have the sophisticated thinking of someone who might think this is a process that I can benefit from. You know, there was no sense that I could ever recover from this. I'd broken. Anybody read Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky? If you haven't read it, please read it. There's a character. His main character is Raskolnikov, and he commits murder, and he tells his girlfriend what he's done. And she said, "What have you done to yourself? What have you done to yourself?" And I hadn't realised just how much I damaged my own self by the crimes I committed. But anyway, I'm in this hole. I don't expect to get out. I've got the edge on many of my fellow prisoners because I can write. I'm not literate especially. I'm not educated, but I can read. Not write, I can read. I'm allowed 6 books a week from the prison library, and I go to the prison library. I'm banged up in that cell for 23 hours a day, and the doors are open like minutes at a time. And there's always violence. There was something like you've got to learn a language in prison. He's a nonce, a sex offender. He's a grass, an informer. He's a screw, a prison officer. He's a con, a prisoner. You got to learn weird language. And when you get out, when the doors were open, you go to this recess. And you all empty your toilet buckets in this place. There's always somebody like a nonce or a grass getting bashed in the recess. And you have to I was always glad to get back to my cell. And, it's funny, you're in jail. And you get locked in like a box. And the heart pounds like hell because you're sort of trapped in this like concrete box. And then you calm down. I used to do a few exercises and try and keep myself sort of fit and healthy. Keep myself clean. Have a strip wash. And then the door opens to go and get a food, and your heart starts to pound again. You stroll out, and what's all that clicking thing? Is that me? Is that you? So anyway, so I'm in there. I'm in a hole, never expecting to get out and sort of live, not be a journalist or a writer at all, But anyway, I spent a year in there trying to figure out how I'd become. What I'd become. Was I born bad? It's me. Sorry guys, give me 1 minute. He told me everything would be fine, so I trusted him. And I liked his smile. Oh, now I've got a full... Okay, are we cool? Okay. So here I am in Wandsworth. I got my 6 books from the prison library. I started to read. My dad got me a little transistor radio. And I started to listen to my little radio about, I was never somebody who read newspapers. I didn't listen to the news because the news was for other people, not for like people like me. I lived on the streets. If I read newspapers, I read the headlines, I looked at the pictures. Never read a leader. I didn't know what a leader was, I just thought I wasn't somebody who had an interest or thought that serious current affairs in a newspaper were relevant to me. I just didn't. I can't explain why. I just wasn't one of those people. In jail, I started to think about my society outside myself. Was I born bad? Did I become bad? Did I make bad choices? Was I made bad? These are the thoughts that I had. Anyway, the year passed in Wandsworth jail. It was a long old year. My first year, it was a long year. First Christmas in Wandsworth, the man in the cell above mine hanged himself. Brought it home to me. These guys, we all think that prisoners are all friends together, all mates together, having a great time at the taxpayer's expense. They're all watching Sky TV, and, they're not. Believe me, they're not. They're all strangers. We cram strangers into our prisons, all the varying levels of dysfunction and failing. We cram them into these places, and then we call them the prisoners, as if there's some sort of subgroup of society. As if they are actually. They're not subhuman. But when you're in there, and you're subject to the opprobrium of society, I'm not going to lie to you, you feel subhuman. I knew I did bad things, and I caused pain that I can never, I can't even come to terms with it. And society rightly judges me as somebody who deserves, a hard time. But we have prisons that let people out. At the moment, there are about 86,000 people in our prisons. We let out of our jails around about 70 to 80,000 every year. So the majority of people in our prisons, they come out. We release them. We let people out of jail. And almost half within 12 months reoffend, and within 2 years, it's like 70%, We let people out of prison, even people like I was, doing 99 years. There's about 50 people in the whole system never to be released. People like the Yorkshire Ripper, Rose West, Ian Huntley. We've created icons of hatred. They've done terrible things, but the media often focuses on specific crimes What's sexy? If it bleeds, put it on the front page. If it bleeds, give it a headline. If it bleeds, let's put the spotlight on that. And so I was in prison with people much more worse than Ian Huntley. It was never in the headlines because it didn't get the attention that sometimes particular crimes get, you know. But anyway, I'm learning. I'm in jail and I'm learning. I used to listen to like phone-in programs on the little radio my dad gave me. And they talk about prisons and all that sort of stuff. I used to think, God, I'd listen to people talk about jails. I thought, they have no idea. I deserve to be here. And I'm not complaining about shitting in a bucket, gloom in my cell, 6 books a week from the prison. I'm not complaining because I deserve all that's coming to me. But Christ, those people out there, they think I'm having a great time in here. They moved me to my first long-term high-security prison just after a year. And it was the same sort of thing. He's a grass, he's a non. Same prison culture, very aggressive, very hostile. The Ministry of Justice, they call prisons hostile environments. You know, so we create these hostile environments officially, and we put human beings in there, and we expect them to, I don't know what, to do not bad things. Well, they do every crime you can. See, people often say, "Well, they're in I don't care what happens. As long as they're in prison, they can't do more crime." Well, they do. Every crime you can imagine happens out here in good society. Worse happens in jail. I started to become a bit of a thinker in my isolation. You know. Then I met a psychologist in my long-term high school prison. She said to me, it took a while. She said, "You're valuable." Me. I said, "Joe, don't make me cry. I'm not valuable." She said, "No, we're all born livable. We're all born with the potential to become who we're meant to be." And I thought, no. I said, "What even mean?" She said, "Even you." And I was like 30 years old by then. You know, this little lady used to come on the wing. This maximum security wing was full of like the worst of the worst. Multiple killers, rapists, child abductors, terrorists. It was the worst of the worst, you know. I can't put any better than that. And there was not a lot of hope on that wing, I've got to tell you. There was a lot of remorse, shame, regret. They're not all in there having a great time, these prisoners, you know. They're not, I can't tell you. You know, when you've done harm, serious harm to other people, you've got to live with that. When you're in a prison, you've got to figure out how to use anyway. We're all born lovable, she said. Even me, even you. You've got to get an education. Now I'm sitting like a big numpty, 30 years old. An education. I said, I'm too thick. No, nobody's thick. We're all born with the potential to become who we're meant to be. So tentatively, I thought, well, when I was a little boy, I was going to show you a picture of me as a little boy. And I show you this because I was in jail for the worst offences. You know, I was convicted of 2 murders. But not him. The little boy there had hope, optimism, trust. All the things that you had when you were little girls and boys, he had. You know, they went a bit after that picture was took. Life went a bit pear-shaped. You know, I'm not going to like bore you with it nitty-gritty, but it went a bit pear-shaped. Violence, drunkenness, not by me, but inflicted on me. You know, I bailed out when I was about 10 years old, and I lived in an air raid shelter, and I sort of was in a children's home. Then they let me out, and I drifted for the next, you know, my teenage years was drifting, lived on the streets. I used to live rough. Sometimes for weeks at a time. I lived in air raid shelters, I lived in garden sheds, graveyards, motorway service station sort of places. And I committed more crime. When I was 11 years old, I was convicted of burglary. The worst thing they did, you know, because as soon as I was convicted, the old magistrate said, "You're going away," he said, "till you're 18 years old." And I was like, oh, I thought I was going to jail, but they put me in a hole. But from that moment, I thought of myself as a criminal. So when they let me out of the home when I was 15, I still, in the children's home, when the boys, there's about 25 boys there, all aged between sort of 7 and 25, and 15. And when we talked about the future, none of us talked about becoming journalists or writers or astronauts or train drivers. You know, we thought about we're going to be criminals, because most of us have been convicted of some petty crime. There were orphans there. There were kids who had been abused by their parents. But the overall sense was that we are criminals. When they let me out of that home at 15, I had an education. You know, I was good at English at school, but nothing else. All the other teachers hated me. Chip on both shoulders. Angry child. Must learn to communicate more effectively. You know, all very negative. But Mrs. Earnshaw, my English teacher, said, "Oh, very good at English." It disappeared. I left the home at 15, and I drifted on the country for the next few years. I worked on building sites. I worked washing up in restaurants. I tarmacked roads, and I committed more crime. It was no big deal for me. You know, my dad was a drunk. I became a drunk. I became worse than him, actually. It was no big deal for me to have a fight, get drunk, smash a window, steal a car, you know, that sort of stuff. And I sank, you know, I really sank. And I ended up meeting the man who would become my co-accused in a squat. What led to the 2 killings, which I'm so ashamed to tell you that, you know. I'm not going to go into details, but anyway, it was just appalling. It was just absolutely appalling. I can't even get my head around it now, but got to the Old Bailey, glad my life was over, wouldn't have minded the gallows. But we give people a chance in this country. We let people out. I didn't know that then. I mean, Wandsworth, I get to Monster Mansion, this high security jail, all the locals, that's what they called it, Monster Mansion. You know. The psychologist says, get an education. I said, John, I'm too thick. None of us are thick. We're all born with the potential to become who we're meant to be. And I thought, Christ. So tentatively, I joined the English class in the jail. And, you know, within about 4 lessons, I was top of the class. It's not hard to be top of the class in prison, I tell you. But, and here I am. I'm in English. I'm spelling and all that sort of stuff. I'm good, you know. And I join other classes. And my big empty head starts to get full of knowledge. I'm 31 years old. I'm starting to educate myself. I get all this information from books. Thank God I could read. You know, 60% of the people in our jails, even today, can't read or write. Well, thank God I could read. I read books. There's a couple of complicated things I'm not going to share with you, only because of time constraints, but eventually in jail, I became known as the guy that could write a good letter. You know, prison's such a small world. Everybody knows everybody's business. And I became known as and I had never done anything in my life for anybody else before. I was not a giver, I was a taker. You know, I didn't know the value of actually helping someone, giving something to someone. I didn't know how valuable or precious that was. I was always a taker. And I was the guy that could write. There's always somebody at my cell. Can you write a letter home? Can you do a parole board application? Can you do a complaint to the governor? Oh, I used to love doing those. I got a lot of vicarious pleasure writing. Sending a few bullets there his way. And I loved that, you know, I was the guy that could write a good letter. And then I thought, writing, you know, prison, so much violence and unpleasantness in prison. And one of the biggest things in prison, one of the biggest problems in prison is the lack of ability to communicate effectively. So it's often a battery, a PP9 battery, in a sock, ambush in the recess, or a toothbrush with razor blades melded into the end, ambush in the recess. As a whole, you know, often the conflict in prison, if people could speak and engage and have a conversation, there'd be so much less serious violence. You know, last year we had the most deaths in our prison that we've had since records began. Did you know that? You probably didn't know that. We had more suicides last year than we've ever had in the last 25 years. 20,000 assaults on staff. You know, thousands of prisoners assaulting each other. We've got a massive problem in our jails. But anyway, it wasn't as bad as it is now when I was in. But there was a lot of problems, you know. I mean, it was like survival. I was in a major riot in 1990 in Long Lartin. The barricades went up, the prison officers scattered. Which they're told to do, once the barricades go up, the officers are told to get out of the jail. Sparks were flying. The pumps, the pipes, the water pipes were smashed. When prisoners go berserk, they forget, actually, we need some water to drink. They smash everything. Prisoners run about with spears and masks. My next door neighbour was in for killing 5 people. He said, let's kill the nonces. I said, Mickey, let's. Then was Mickey James. I said, don't do that tonight. Let's not kill anybody. Let's try and keep safe. Fucking nonces, we can kill the nonces. I said, no, he's in for killing 5 people. He wants to kill the nonces. 6 months later, he hanged himself in Full-Sun prison. There's a lot of challenging experiences in there, but I was the guy that could write a good letter, and I hung on to that. My books in prison, that riot, I put all my books at about 9 books, including a big dictionary. It took me 3 years in jail before I owned a dictionary. And I put all those books in a pillowcase, and I got a table leg, and I guarded that cell. I guarded that cell. And then, the years passed. I was sort of the ducking and diving and challenges of prison life. Did they move me on? The guy that could write. I got involved in writing groups and prison magazines and that sort of thing. Well, maybe if life had been different, I could have been a journalist or a writer. And anyway, the years passed. 15 years into my sentence, the Guardian newspaper, God bless them, invited me to write a regular column about prison life they called it A Life Inside. It was one of those be careful about what you wish for moments, because all the years I've been, in 1994 I had an article published in The Independent, I was fed up with newspapers writing about holiday camp prisons, so I wrote all these papers. We don't mind being here. We deserve to be here, but we're not living in holiday camps. And nobody ever published a letter. Suddenly, The Independent, a woman called Genevieve Fox and Ruth Picardy, Nigel, I might ring bells, but Ruth Picardy died of cancer. But they wrote back to me and said, they didn't publish my letter, but they said, okay, tell us what prison life's about. So I wrote an article, what I thought was like, publishable. And they published it, and they paid me 160 quid. But much more important than money was my byline. Jim Smith. That's what I called myself. I was scared. I didn't want to put myself out there, But I thought, Christ almighty, there's me in the Independent newspaper. I'm in a concrete and steel box. And thousands of people out there are reading my thoughts, my words. It's just the most exhilarating experience. And then there's some prison sort of issue going on. So Independent wrote to me again and said, look, can you give us an article about this? So I wrote another piece. There it was in the paper. In the jail, I get the paper. We had one Guardian a week in the prison library and one Independent. Broadsheets are not popular newspapers in jail. But anyway, there were 2 of these. And I went and got the Independent when my second article was in, and I strolled about the prison landing with this thing on my arm. Open at my page, hoping somebody would ask me, what's that? Nobody did. No, nobody even mentioned it, I was so amazed that my thoughts and words and ideas were out there, It's an amazing experience. And I started to write to all sorts of newspapers, local papers, national press. I thought, maybe this is something they paid money for this. Maybe it's something I could have done, could do even. 1998, I get my first article in The Guardian. Off-spec piece, I write it in, they publish it. Malcolm Dean was the editor of Society Guardian. I'm deep in jail still, 1998. I've been in, 14 years I've been in. And I'm starting to think, had life been different? Now, the reason I'm sharing this with you, because I can't give you technical advice about how to be a journalist. I'm not, Nigel. You've got fantastic people here telling you how to do journalism. I can't tell you that. All I can tell you is a good article always includes narrative, description, and dialogue. Wherever you're writing, newspapers, magazines, books, blogs, people like to see narrative, description, and dialogue. That's as far as I'm going to try and advise you on the technical aspects of journalism. I'm not, I was never trained. What I found was people like a snappy opening. George got stabbed last night. What a great opening line. I was lucky in a way in jail, Had lots of good openings, a good middle and a good outline. But in jail, when I started to write my column for The Guardian, I had to not just give a good opening, a good middle and a good end. I had to give a moral story to justify me, a convict serving life for murder, writing in a national newspaper. What, is it a bit of fun? No, I had to prove that I deserved to be there, So I always give a sort of moral tale. I wrote these things, 800 words. Actually, when The Guardian asked me, I went to the prison governor, and I said, look, governor, you're not going to believe this. The Guardian newspaper, dare I say, one of the most respected newspapers in the world, 100 million unique users on the website, by the way, now. If you want to, get a profile, get on The Guardian. But anyway, I said, The Guardian wants me to write for them about prison. Oh, no prisoners allowed to contact the media. I've been in jail 15 years. I said, I don't want to contact the media, governor. I said, I'm a journalist. I'm a writer. And as soon as I said it, I was embarrassed. I was so embarrassed. I'd never said that to anybody. He said, I suggest you get another hobby, said the prison governor. I said, yes, right. I had all these bits and pieces on his desk about my writing groups, my bit of journalism, I won a couple of competitions. I thought, he's right, Who am I kidding, I scooped my bits up, went back to my cell, and one of the reasons I made it after jail, if you make it in this country after a prison sentence, you don't do it by design, you do it by chance. And I don't say that to you lightly, because I think that, if we send people to prison, I don't care what they've done. If we're letting them out, it's incumbent on us to make sure, as much as we can, to let them out better than they were when they went in. But my prison experience was about survival and gravitating towards people who work in our jails. We've got an army of people who work in those places, who want to help us, who get no thanks. But really, it's about chance, And I went back to my cell, my bits and pieces of the gun. I thought, what do I do? Do I just give up? I could have crawled in a hole and rotted, So many long-term prisoners in our you just crawl away. They become like festering, rotting carcasses of humans, and they float about the landings, old grey men with no purpose or future. And I could have done that, but the psychologist who told me I was valuable, she also said to me, you owe it to your victims to do the best you can with the life you have left. And that drove me, not to get out and be a journalist, but just to use every breath I had to try and justify my existence. And part of that, when he said to me, no prison like that, I don't want to contact him. He said, I suggest you get another hobby. So I'll give you 50 small no's and one big no. I skulked away, and I educated myself in jail. And I read about a man called Calvin Coolidge, amazing American president from 1923, I think, to 1929, through the worst years of depression in America. And he was trying to rally his society. And I'll paraphrase what he said. He gave this amazing speech. And I won't give you the whole speech, but I'll paraphrase it. He said, nothing in the world can take the place of determination. Not education, and not talent. Determination and persistence are omnipotent. I did that on my cell wall for 18 years. I got back to my cell and I started to, and I looked at it, I thought, do I just give up, or do I just crawl in a hole, or do I try and achieve something with this life I've got, And so I thought, no, so I petitioned the Home Office, and petitioned MPs, The Guardian, petitioned people, and eventually they gave me permission to write a regular column for the paper. Within almost 16 years by then. It's one of those strange times, I'm in my cell, I'm looking out through bars into the exercise yard, very quiet, unduly quiet at the prison, rain coming down. And I thought, what the hell am I going to write about? Nothing ever happens in here. But actually it does. All human life thrives in our prisons. Every drama you can imagine, every conflict you can imagine, it's all in there. And I sat down and I started to write. The guy at The Guardian, Ian Katz, who was the features editor then, he said, give me 800 words, got the pieces. So I wrote these 3 articles of 800 words. And you know, I've got a pencil, and I've got one of the prison officers, I had a secret Guardian reader, who was one of the prison officers, and he smuggled paper to me. I used to stick it to my cell at night, and I just said, and I'd write 800 words, exactly 800 words, because that's what they asked for. If it was 806, I'd count every one. I thought, no good. I'd do it all again until I got exactly 800 words, because this fantastic, amazing newspaper editor wanted me in his newspaper. I wanted it to be perfect. And I sent these things off, and anyway, put it in the paper. We'll call it A Life Inside, he said. It was fantastic. And so I started to write this column from my prison cell. I went from being the guy that could write a good letter to being a writer in prison. They paid money for this column, The Guardian. Not a lot. If you want to make money out of journalism, don't go to The Guardian. But if you want amazing colleagues, you want to be considered a serious journalist, Christ almighty. You know, I'd do it for nothing, personally. But they paid money. Went to charity, I didn't like that. I'd never done anything for charity before, or for other people. The governor then, a few months later, the Paul Boateng, the prison minister then, he gave me permission to write this column. And all the security people backed off. And then Paul Boateng, the local deputy mayor of the local town, came into the prison. The governor was showing him around. He said, this is Erwin James. He writes for The Guardian. He showed me off. Well, you fucking hypocrite. After all he'd done to stop me writing for the paper. And when I saw him later, most of the people who work in our prison, this governor was a good man. People who work in our jail, believe me, you've got to give him respect, man, maximum respect. He was a good guy. But when I spoke to him later, I said, that's hypocritical. What's all that about? Showing me off. He said, I'm amazed you're doing what you're doing. He said, but in our society, we believe in rehabilitation for prisoners, but we're not sure how rehabilitated we want them to be. And you being a Guardian columnist, look, people out there won't be able to stomach that. And I thought, how absurd. We don't know how rehabilitated. If you're ever going to let someone like ours out of jail, Christ, you've got to make sure I'm rehabilitated to the nth degree. Don't let me out otherwise. If you can't trust me to be safe among you guys, among society, don't let me out. But we don't. We let them out anyway. We don't care that much. Guardian columnist, Jesus Christ, it's outrageous. Keep him in. Well, anyway, they let me out after 20 years. 20 years to the day I walked out that prison gate. I had a byline, national newspaper. I'd written for other publications by that. I'd written for the Radio Times, I'd written for the New Humanist, I'd written for the Big Issue, and since then, you know, I walked out of prison 12 years ago. I've written for most people, not the Sun. Written for the Mirror, written for the Telegraph, written for the Mail. They turned me over, but I've written for them. Mail on Sunday, I've written for that. Anybody, you know, if you're a journalist, you write. I write for money, but not just for money. You know, right? It's an amazing thing when you get your thoughts and your ideas and your name out in that domain, and especially now, millions of people will read your stuff. And I write something now. God, I'm amazed. If I write, it almost looks like if I write and I publish, I exist. Because if I didn't write, I don't think I would exist. That's how it feels to me. Anyway, so I walked out those prison gates for 20 years. I've got a couple of things I'm going to share with you, because what can I tell you about journalism? What the hell can I tell you guys about? You're the brightest, amazing people. You're going to be amazing journalists. 10 times, 100 times better than I'm ever going to be. What can I share with you? Well, what I share with you is, if you really want to be a journalist, and you want to be a writer, and you want to get published, you want to have a byline, you really want to do that. I mean, you really want to do it. You need resilience. You need tenacity. You need determination. And you need persistence. And you need to have so much passion that what this is what you want to, because if you don't have those things, believe me, go back a year, study something else. If you don't want to see your words in print for the world to look at, to think about, if you don't really want to do that, it's about a bit of journalism, that sounds interesting. If you don't really want to do that, listen, the competition now, digital journalism, the competition now is unbelievable for journalists. But you'll make it if you really have the passion, not for money, or for prestige, or for look at me, I'm a Guardian journalist. If you really want to do it because you want your words out there in that world, you'll do it, but you need resilience, determination, persistence, tenacity, and above all, if I may say it, Nigel, integrity. When I got out of jail, I wasn't expecting to be a semi-public figure. People would want to know who I am or anything. But anyway, I made the mistake of Googling myself. Well, I wonder how famous I am. I was quite famous. Oh God, that was terrifying. And I started to lie. I wrote an article called Legion of Honor, because a lot of bloggers they're starting to find out who was Erwin James, who did he kill, what was his crimes, and I started to hide, and I wrote this article, Legion of Honor. The Guardian said to me, "You were in the Foreign," because after my crimes, I fled the country and joined the Foreign Legion. I was there for a couple of years, and I handed myself in. But the Guardian said to me, "You were in the Legion, write about the Foreign Legion," because there was some news story about the Legion wasn't taking Brits anymore because they're too flabby. So I thought, I'll write a piece. So I wrote this article, and I lied in this article. I said I joined in 81, I joined in 82. I said I was in Beirut. I was never in Beirut. I was in Chad. I could have really given a colourful piece. A serious, interesting piece. I was a heavy machine gunner. I guarded the guy in charge of the whole Operation Manta, which is the biggest sort of French military operation in Africa since like the Second World War. I was not his bodyguard, but I was on guard. I could have given a really good sort of, but I didn't. I lied because I was scared of being found out, my past. And Legion of Honor. And there was a big piece there saying, "This article, blah, 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 we apologise, the Guardian." Imagine how that felt. I thought it was finished. I thought it's all over for me. I was tenacious. I was determined. I was persistent. I crumbled for a while because I didn't say I was a hero. I went and bloody rescued nuns and rescued orphans. I just said I wasn't where I was when I said I was. And then the bloggers got me and they turned me over. The Mail on Sunday published a big piece about me, murderers' lies, and the Guardian paid for it. Journalism is pretty ruthless, I don't tell you. 6 months later, the Mail on Sunday paid me £1,000 for an article I wrote on the Norwegian prison system. It's cynical, I tell you. And I picked myself up. I thought, no, I've got to. This is what I was meant to do. Try and bring some information. Because here's another thing: niche journalism. That's where you want to. Medical journalism, sports journalism, health journalism. There's a whole. Every range, every issue you can think of. There's a niche there waiting for you. Now I don't want you to have my niche, not because I'm already in it. But to get this niche, you've got to have a troubled life, And in a way, I'm lucky that I salvaged something from that hole. I don't know how I did it, if I'm honest, but I did it. So, integrity. Don't lie in your articles. Be truthful, be honest. People will trust you. Be passionate, be honest, be truthful. Have integrity. And your readers will trust you. I managed to get some trust back because it wasn't a massive lie. I was going to tell you other stuff, but we're running out of time. And I want you to talk to me. I want you to engage with me. I want to ask some questions. Be bold. Right? You got me for 20 minutes or so. I've got anything I can tell you. I wish I could spend a whole afternoon with you, because you are the future of our journalism industry. But if I can take questions now, it'll be very grateful.
Yeah.
Anything, there's no boundaries, guys.
First gentleman here.
During the time you were in prison, when you were reading your articles, how would you say that journalism has changed from you reading yours to you publishing?
That's a good question. How has journalism changed since me reading my articles? I mean, reading my articles, one Guardian a week in the jail on a Thursday, me and Big Runty and Felix the Gambler used to race down to the library to get the Guardian, and we'd like turn the pages over, and there was A Life Inside by Erwin James, Big Runty. We lived because of that column, you know, it was like opening a little window to the world outside. I was a very naive journalist then. You know, I was in jail, and I had no expectations other than, my God, I'm so grateful. Has it changed? You know it's changed. You know, then, I mean, possibly on the web, The Guardian then had, I don't know, 1 million unique readers a month. Now it's got 100 million. You know, web journalism, digital journalism is the big, it's sort of overwhelmed. It's taken all the money from, you know, the Guardian used to earn a lot of money from advertising, for example. Now they don't, because of the web. They give free journalism. You know, you can log on to the Guardian any day of the week. You don't have to pay anything. You just log on and you can read free news. So I guess that's the big change, is that news now, mostly, if you don't want to pay, you don't have to pay. That's the big change. Any other questions, guys? Yeah.
Did any of your fellow prisoners how did they feel about you reporting from inside?
Did any of my fellow prisoners know about me writing for the newspapers? How did they feel about it? Well, I kept it quiet because they don't like tall poppers in prison. It was a thing, years. Somebody came to me one day in my cell and said, "Do you write for the Times?" I went, "Yeah." Blatant lie. You see, you're covering my tracks, you know. I don't want people to know I'm right, but then when there was something, when there was a major drama where people might be affected by what I was writing, I went to see them. I said, "Look, I write for the Guardian. I write this little column." And I showed them bits and pieces. I said, "Look, can I write about this?" Like one of my fellow prisoners, these two lifers, they've been mates for years, and one of them died, and the other one was heartbroken. I said, "Can I write about that? Just to show that there's humanity in here, and you make friends, and you, oh, God, you do that?" I said, "Yeah, I'd like to write." He said, "Yeah." So I went, you know. But what I did, I changed names and sort of establishments and time frames to protect people. So I wasn't trying to, you know, be scandalized. I mean, my column, if I'm honest, it was like the Archers behind bars. It was like everyday tales of prison folk. I mean, the Archers recently, I don't know any Archers listeners here, but it's bloody, they're dangerous. The Archers is a dangerous place. But that's what I tried to do, and I was always very cautious, trying to not be a tall poppy. And I had to keep my achievements quiet, you know, which is a bit frustrating, because when you achieve something, don't you ever keep your achievements quiet. You know, jump up and say, "I did this, I managed that." But in jail, you got to be a bit careful, you know. But thanks for that question. Thank you very much. Yes?
You ever write about, like, individual prisoners, but not like names, but like...
Did I ever write about individual prisoners? You've got to buy my book. It's called A Life Inside. I'm not here to promote my book, but no, seriously, I'm not. I've got 3 books out, but yes, I did. Yes, I did, because I had to give a flavour of real life. So but what I did was I gave them different names. Here's the funny thing. So Felix the Gambler, his name's Phil. Big Rinty, his name's Rab. These are major characters in my column over the years. But what I did, here's an interesting thing, you know, I'm talking about technicalities. You can fictionalize, you know. You can write about a real life thing. When there's sensitive issues, you can change names, create characters. But as long, my sort of golden rule for me was, if it didn't happen, don't write about it. If it happened, write about it. Make sure the core of what you're writing is the truth, okay? But you don't make it up. I could have made all sorts of stuff in jail. In fact, somebody wrote to me and said, somebody wrote in a book called, no, it was an article. Somebody wrote about my writing. They didn't know who I was. Then I was anonymous. And he said, is this all true? I thought, of course it's true. I'm living it every day, you know. But I did it in such a way to make it accessible, so people actually liked my characters. I never talked about the crimes, the rapes, the murders, the abductions, the terrorism, the drug dealing. I didn't write about crimes. I wrote about people in jail. And yes, I wrote about individuals, but I didn't expose them. I wanted people to, You know, you might have that when yourself, when you're doing your own work, you might think, oh God, you know, this story needs to be told, but I can't expose this person. You've got to give, you know, the people that you're writing about, when it comes to, make sure they trust you. Don't let them down. If you say, look, I won't identify you, I'll do this, and that, make sure you do it, you know. And I always did that in jail. I don't let myself down when I got out of prison, but then I've got no excuses, you know. I was a bit paranoid. And there was no assistance, you know, but to come out of jail after 20 years and become a national journalist, and then there was no, what we should have done at The Guardian, said, look, we need a mechanism. We can share the readers, look, who you are, what you did. Nobody said that, so I was left on my own, and I lied in panic. Never lie in your journalism. Always tell the truth. People will trust you. If you tell the truth, and they come to respect you, you know, and look forward to reading what you're writing. Any other questions, guys? Yes.
Have people ever reacted differently to you after knowing that you went to prison, as that you're a journalist from The Guardian, but after they found out that you went to prison, have they reacted differently?
Have people reacted to me differently because once they found out I've been in prison? Yes. You know, yes. Even The Guardian, I go in there. I've got some of my best friends I've ever made in my life are at The Guardian. I used to sleep rough as a drunken, dangerous tramp in the bin area of The Guardian on Farringdon Road. Can you imagine that? And then I walk in there, swan in with my security. Oh, morning, Erwin. Morning. Have people reacted differently? Yes, they do, but don't worry about that. You know, don't listen. Here's another thing. You gotta just be the best you can in life with the life you have. That's what that psychologist told me. Do the best you can with the life you have left, and that pertains to anybody, not just me. You've done a bad thing. Do the best you can, and don't worry about reactions. You know, I walk in a bar. I don't walk in many bars, but if I walk in a bar, half the people will hate me because of the way I look. The other half, well, a quarter of the other half will like me because of the way I look. And a quarter of the other half won't be interested. Couldn't give a toss who I am. You know, we get judged for so many reasons in this world. You know, and beware. You know, I know long-standing journalists at The Guardian who used to write, I don't know if you ever read Comment is Free at The Guardian, the Guardian website. It's great. It's a great venue. It's a great place to write. Great place for, you know, doing an apprenticeship, actually. Writing a short, pithy piece for Comment is Free. And what a lot of the long-standing journalists couldn't stand was the comments, because you write something now, it's on the internet. You write for a paper, magazine, it's going to be the internet. And you'll go, oh, I wonder what people think. And you look, you know, slag, cunt. I'm not exaggerating. Apologies, Nigel, I've got to tell you that that's the truth. Murderer. Okay, I was convicted of murder, you know. Listen, one bit of advice I would say to you guys. The internet is like a big graffiti board. Okay, when I see kids who like hurt themselves because they've been bullied online, you know, it's like going to the toilet, you say, he's a twat, you know. It's the same sort of thing, you know. It really is. The internet's a big graffiti board. Don't let it impact on what you write, how you write, who you are, what you want to say. Read the comments if you want. I sort of don't read. I mean, when I've got a book out, I read the reviews. Yeah, of course I do. Who the hell wouldn't? And if I get like a nasty one, and I'm like 3 sentences, I stop reading. Don't let reactionaries hurt you, or stymie your passion, your talent, and your skill, and your ability, and your encouragement, and your motivation, your inspiration. Don't let anybody stop you, or stymie you from being the best you can be. You're never going to listen. We all like people to love us and care about us, and you know, respect us. It's never going to happen. In a million years, you're going to have a coterie of friends that you trust, and then get out there and, you know, prove yourself with your writing, your journalism, or how you live even. Because one thing I learned in jail is what gets universal respect is moral strength and moral courage. Bear in mind, all my life I was a coward. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. I was a coward. I ran. What I learned in jail was, if you make a stand with moral courage, moral strength, you know, Any other questions, guys? Sorry, yeah.
What made you turn yourself in?
What made me turn myself in? I'll tell you briefly, because it's about journalism. My conscience. Next question. Yeah. Yes, that's a kind question. Thank you. Do I use my journalistic skills to help the Prison Reform Trust? I'm a patron of the Prison Reform Trust. I'm a trustee of the Prison Reform Trust. I'm a trustee of the Kersler Trust, which they put, in prisons, they have this, every year they have this thing called the Kersler Awards. And I won a Kersler Award in 1996 in jail. Won first prize for prose, so I support them, because they encourage prisoners to use creativity. I think creativity is an amazing what is creativity? It's a thing that we can make us more than we are. Creativity is a fantastic vehicle for allowing us to find out who we are. So I support those people. Yeah, I do use my journalistic skills to support any charity. I often get asked, and sometimes I wish I had more time in the day to support all these people who are trying to make prison life and the criminal justice system, people caught up in that, trying to make it more effective in terms of not giving them more of a hard time. You can beat a dog with a stick. I promise you, it won't be the nicest dog you ever wanted in your kitchen. If you help that dog to be a better dog, there's less chance of it biting you. And I think in our society we need to just, when I was helped, I worked so hard to prove I was worthy of that help. And that's what it's like. But at the moment, we've got a massive crisis, security and safety crisis in our prisons at the moment. But I'm babbling on. But what I'm saying is, yes, I do whatever I can. So one of the reasons, standing here with you guys, I want you all to be the best journalists and writers you can ever be. But I'm also privileged to share a little bit about the prison info with you. And I've got a couple of newspapers in my bag here. I'm going to leave, if I can, with Nigel. Because I am the editor-in-chief, excuse me, of the most amazing newspaper, I think, in the country. So I'll leave those with you, Nigel. There's 3 copies there. Have a look. And anyway, more questions, guys, more questions. Yes?
What kind of news do you put in that? Like, are prisoners interested in what's going on in America?
Prisoners interested in going on in America?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Why? So we've got one of our jokes at the back of the paper is about Trump. I've got to tell you. I mean, I am a lefty. I'm not actually. I'm apolitical. But I guess when it comes to Trump and Brexit and Farage, it's like living in. When I was in jail, it was like living in an alternative reality. And in the past few months, it's been like living in an alternative reality. I don't know what you think. I thought I was apolitical until Trump was elected bloody president. What news do we put in? It's a monthly, so it's a feature paper. But look, we got an interview with the president of the Prison Governors Association. We got an interview with the chair of the Justice Select Committee. Nobody else had that. We had that. Now that's not news really, but it's from the horse's mouth. And then we have 9 pages of letters from prisoners. You want to know what our prison's like? Read those pages. That gives you the measure of what we're doing in our jails. And then I do features and stuff. I sort of, breaking the cycle of crime through good food. Eat well together, work well together. You got loads of stuff in here. Access to the library. The inspector calls prison inspectors. It's not. It is a newspaper, but it's features, and it's quite hard, if you want to get into features. I mean, I've written stuff for The Guardian for features, which is like 6 weeks later, it ends up in the paper. But I try and be newsy. I mean, this our next December issue is we've got a lot about the prison riots in there, But I don't want to encourage I don't want to give riot, so the prison riot, let's all riot. I don't encourage them to riot. I try and bring hope and optimism into the prison. They can read in the Sun all the crap they want about riots and stuff, So it's a newspaper, and it gives them news. But it's a monthly, And we go to print a week before the end of each month. So it's quite awkward, really. You know, you've got to work out the time. Quite hard. Any other questions, guys? Yes?
How did having a career in journalism help you readjust into the outside world once you released?
How did having a career in journalism help readjust getting out into the outside world after release? Massively. Because you get out of jail in this country, people don't want to know you. You get out of prison after 20 years, they especially don't want to know you. You got 99 years and you got out in 20 years. You should still be in there. You should have been hanged. But I was a writer, you know. I was lucky. The Guardian gave me a chance to sort of prove that I could actually do this. And in a way, that helped me. That sort of, in a way, insulated me from the general social opprobrium that we collectively, we inflict on people coming out of prison, especially people coming out of prison for serious crimes or sex crimes. And in a way, I was like, it gave me a little, you know, a neutral avenue to get into. So it did help me a massive, because I'm self-employed, you know. I've been so lucky. I've been as a writer. I work for the Guardian, but I'm freelance, you know. But I'm a Guardian columnist. I edit this thing. I'm an author. You know, I've managed to, through writing. So I don't care if the whole world hates me. They don't. You know, some people think, oh wow, it's amazing that this guy's rehabilitated. Some think scum, should have been on death row, should have been hanged. I don't worry about that. I just live the best I can, make a contribution. And when it's all over, at least I'm grateful. I live in a country, a society, still prepared to give someone like I was a second chance. Yeah. Sorry, Nigel. Yes.
I was going to say one last question.
Okay, guys. You pick, Nigel. You pick.
Yeah. Do your victims' families know what you do now?
That's a really pertinent question. Nothing to do with journalism at all, but very pertinent, because I'm standing here to you with the grace of my society. Do my victims' families know what I do? Yes, they do. When I wrote that lie in the Foreign Legion piece, the bloggers on the web then did a bit more digging because I gave them some clues in there because I was so naive. And I was outed on the internet. Erwin James Monahan. I was brought up as Erwin Monahan, you know. I've been writing as Erwin James since 1998. And then the Mail on Sunday did a big piece about my victims and, you know, who I really was, and that sort of murderers' lies and that sort of stuff. And then people connected my victims. And I wasn't trying to hide, really. If I'm honest, I wasn't trying to hide. I was trying to be discreet. You know, I don't know if that sounds naive. I was trying to just, look, I don't want people to think about who I am, but what I'm writing, you know. When you write something, it's not about you. It's about what you're writing. It's about the issues you're writing, the ideas you're sharing. It's not about who you are. But anyway, that's right. And then what happened was I had people connected to my victims who then contacted me, you know, by the internet. And we had some communication. It wasn't very good. It wasn't very satisfying, you know. And I feel for them, you know, because I've ended up with this bit of a profile. I mean, I'm not famous, but I'm sort of well known in certain circles. And you know, if you want to write because you'll be famous, that's, you know. But if you want to write because you want to be a good writer, you want to be respected as a writer. And that's all I ever did, to prove that I could have done this. You know, had my life been different, I'm confident I would never have been a criminal. If somebody had got me when I was a kid and said, look, when I was in that children's home, I was in this town called Ilkley, and the Ilkley Gazette was the town newspaper, and there was 4 pages thick. And I wish now, even now, I think, I wish somebody got me and said, look, tell me, you know, I'm good at English. Take him down to the Ilkley Gazette, give him some work experience. My life would have been totally different. But I've got no excuses for you. I'm not going to give you any excuses. I can't, none of us can change the past. For every action, there's a reaction. And for every action, there's consequences. And I've got to live with this, and they've got to live with that. And if I could go back, I would, you know, but I've got to keep going, you know. I don't know what you think about that. You might think, well, I don't know what to do. My focus is keep going until it's over. And I'm grateful I live in a country that's allowed me to just leave some good behind because of all the bad I did. You know, are you with me? Does that make sense? Because I interviewed somebody on death row 5 years ago. No, sorry. I interviewed somebody on death row. Been on 22 years on death row. He was convicted of murder. And I interviewed him by phone. 2 hours after the interview, they killed him. They strapped him down on a gurney and they injected him and they killed him. And I thought, what did that achieve? His victim's family were happy. But as a society, what did that achieve? That wasn't a noble thing to do, you know. I think it's more noble to give people a chance. Not me. I'm not arguing for me, but generally. But thanks for that question. Thank you.
I'm really reluctant to wrap up, but we do have other speakers booked, so I'm going to have to wrap up. I'm hoping you can stay around for a while to maybe...
5 minutes.
Is that it? Right.
10 minutes.
Or certainly put you in touch with Erwin later.
Sure, yeah.
That was massively interesting, massively inspirational. One little thing I was going to pick up on, will you please tell this lot, you spent your time in a cell with a shortage of books, what to do with a great big library with tens of thousands of books over there?
Get in there.
All right? And go and read the damn thing.
Read the book. Listen
to it. Right?
Well, I would say this to you. You know, I think books kept me alive. In my first year in jail, 6 books a week from the prison library. They used to herd us down there, 6 at a time. And I'd go on the Saturday morning, we'd spend an hour. If you like books, and I'm sure you do, an hour in a library is not very long. And I grabbed everything in there. I've got so many things I could share with you, you know. But anyway, those books helped keep me alive in jail. And books were my best friends in jail. And what happens is when you have thousands of books, like now, I can walk into a newspaper shop, and buy a wheelbarrow full of newspapers. When you're in a prison cell, I used to get the Telegraph, like on day 13 of when it was published, because one of the guys in the wing was I was going to say successful bank robber who was in jail. But he had money stashed, and he got the Telegraph sent in. I was number 13 on the list. And I used to think, God, I'd love to read more newspapers, you know. You have the world here to learn from, to benefit from. That's what you're saying now, you know. And, you know, the libraries, oh God, I could spend hours and hours in the library still. Don't become complacent about the opportunities that you have. I think in life, that's one of the biggest challenges, is not to become complacent and keep striving, keep thriving, and keep focusing, you know, on.
I'm going to work with Erwin later about the possibility of some kind of work placement. But as I say, we are running short of time, so I'd just like for you all to show your appreciation for the time that you've taken.